into this one. I saw a couple reports out there, and this has been said for a while. You know, the Sacramento Kings per FanDuel are one of the early teams to be a favorite for trading for Brandon Ingram. And then we saw reports that the Sacramento Kings are aggressively trying to get Brandon Ingram. It's not something the Pelicans should entertain, right? They should just kind of hang up the phone pretty quickly. It seems like, you know, if you're not going to get De'Aaron Fox and they're not, and you don't really necessarily need him as much with DeJounte Murray here on the team, a trade doesn't make a ton of sense all of a sudden. You know, you're not going to get some bonus from them. But actually thinking more about this, I see the logic behind why the Pelicans would actually entertain this. And there's two big reasons for it. So on the surface, again, this doesn't make sense. You know, the trade would be, if it's just a straight up 2-team trade, Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, and like 2-3 first-round picks, probably 3 first-round picks would be needed. I don't think the Sacramento Kings are going to give up Keegan Murray in this deal. So Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, and 3 future first-round picks. For Brandon Ingram, that seems like a bad trade, right? But hold on. Let me explain. You know, go back to the Atlanta Hawks deal for DeJounte Murray. That's a team that wants to be competitive, you know, in theory now around Trae Young. They don't need first-round picks, but they just picked up, you know, essentially 3 if you count Dyson Daniels from the Pelicans. And the idea is then use those picks for something else. It's hard to figure out trades in the NBA. So the Pelicans are in the same boat. They don't need picks from the Kings, especially when you trade them a player that's going to make them better. But here's the thing. Having mid-level salary is useful. So look at the contracts, not so much the players, of Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter. Harrison Barnes makes $18 million next year. Kevin Huerter is 16.8. The Pelicans, with a very top-heavy roster, particularly after the Brandon Ingram trade, and more on the salary cap in the next segment a little bit here, you know, don't really have that kind of mid-tier tradable salary, something in the 20s range. That's not what they have at all right now. It's basically, you know, high-end guys, 4 of them on the team, and then low-level salary dudes. There's nothing in the middle. So
And a good afternoon. How we do? Kings Court Live, coming to you from the Kings Court Studios, powered by Bennett's Westside Grill. Huge thanks to Brian at the team. Make sure you go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com to find out more about their specials, other locations, menus, and much more. At the top, that was Locked On Pelicans, explaining why it makes sense for the Pelicans to entertain a trade with the Kings. And it's what I've been trying to explain for the last probably year or so about the Kings' liquidity. They're able to have a fluid salary range where they're able to make trades if they need to. If they need to improve, things aren't going right. Well, the Kings are now beginning to back themselves into the corner that we have all worried about as Kings fans. How does this team get better? It's got to be through trade. The options are running thin at this point. In fact, reports out there, New Orleans would like to get a center in exchange for Brandon Ingram. Makes sense, right? So the Kings would have to bring a third team into this. So where do you stand with this? We're going to run down the latest on free agency. The dominoes have fallen. Paul George headed to Philadelphia. Klay Thompson headed to Dallas. What's next? The second tier of free agents, what I consider the second tier, is thinning. So to me, I don't really see a way this team gets significantly better on paper without pulling off a blockbuster trade. Now, it's not to say there isn't one out there, but the cost was already sky high for Sacramento. Look, Washington knows Sac loves Kyle Kuzma. They've chased him for years. Price, sky high, right? Brandon Ingram, the Pelicans are going to want to recover picks in that. It's going to be sky high. And then you look at the next guys, a Lauri Markkanen. What are the chances of the Kings pulling off a trade there? not very good without somebody like Keegan Murray in it. So there is a lot to digest, and I know it's hot outside. Please make sure you're drinking a ton of water, staying cool, especially if you do work outside. We're going to try to have a little bit of fun today, keep it balanced. Want to get all of you in on the action. You can call the show 916-399-3748. You can also get involved in the chat. We'll start go into that in a minute, and you can call through Restream. The link is in the chat. I already see Corn Dog waiting to get on the air. We'll get to him in a second. And if this is your first time on a Monday on the King's Court, it is a Monday. So we've got the wheel that we're going to spin here in a little bit. That's what you see down at the bottom of the screen. If you have something that made you go, dope, let me know. Put it in the chat. We'll throw it on the wheel. Those are somewhat little rants that I go into, things that just bugged me that I saw this weekend. Actually, there's one that's not on there that I may have to get to anyways, which will probably get me in a little bit of trouble, not with all you, but a little bit of trouble with management, the boss. I'm not talking about Grant. I'm talking about my better half, my wife, but it might have to get aired out here on the King's Court. We will see. Adam chiming in. He is first one in. The countdown feels like a televangelist commercial. It's a little different, right? We're tinkering with the different countdown screens. That one's 60 seconds. So that is why I went with it. I like to let the room get filled up a little bit. We'll keep messing with it, but yeah, we're not trying to go televangelist here, not trying to do the Benny Hinn stuff, bodies hit the floor, none of that. So Excel, yes, get Ingram. He destroyed us during the season, then do good during the season, lure big names during the trade deadline during the season. Okay, but that's the thing, right? You're going to go up until the All-Star break, basically. That's usually where the trade deadline's at to make this team better. I don't know. Can they sustain it? Look, I'm as big of a glass half full guy as there is on the airwaves here in Sacramento. I think a lot of the things we saw last year are correctable from this team. I think they were mostly self-inflicted. Now, there is some of it to the size. The Kings did not have the size to contend with some of the big boys in the West, but you don't know what's going to happen. And what I see is teams getting better around Sacramento. And there's also some other news around the NBA that I want to get to as well today. Did you hear about the Kyle Filipowski story and why he allegedly dropped into the second round of the draft? Remember, that's a 7-footer out of Duke that can shoot the three. I know that his workouts reportedly were not the best. He showed a little bit of nerves, but the story on why he allegedly dropped and the concerns that many or some NBA teams had about him surprised me. That was really interesting, so we can get to that as well. But first, let's get Corn Dog up in here. He's been waiting. Welcome into the show today, Corn Dog. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Finally got a haircut.
I was going to say, you got a haircut, man.
Finally, it was going to be, 110, like almost the whole week. So I said, you know what? I don't think I could survive the long hair much longer.
Yeah, I had to go shorter sides too. I was a little bit worried about it. I thought my wife was joking around when she was talking to somebody and they're like, is it supposed to be 117 up there? And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And I looked at my app and I'm like, oh boy. Here we go.
Oh yeah, no, 107. That's Arizona, Vegas levels, man. I don't think we're used to that.
No, but we're definitely going to be well into the hundreds.
We're in the ballpark, but we're not there.
Yeah. So triple digits is never fun. Is it ready for football season yet? Can't it just be football season? Things cool down, then before you know it, it's Halloween and
it's a different type of football season. We got the Euro.
Yeah, you got the Euro Cup going. This is true. This is true.
Yes, USA plays 3:00 today for the Copa America versus Uruguay.
Very cool. I know Baki's kind of the resident guy tracking that. I have not really been paying a ton of attention to it, but probably when it gets down closer to the finals, I'll take a look at it. A gander. I'm still recovering from coaching my son's team. It's like a year ago now. gosh, man, that was not. It was fun, but it wasn't fun.
Kids soccer is, one of those where you just got kids just running around, sometimes just not knowing what to do.
Yeah, we had one kid that could do everything. And in fact, I felt really bad. I pulled his parents aside and I was like, if you want this kid to learn something about soccer, this is not the team. Like, he needs to be on a better team.
Yeah,
Because, like,
one of
I
those
volunteered.
travel teams and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I volunteered to coach, but the problem was my surgery, my first hip replacement got moved up. So the first practice was literally 4 or 5 days after my hip replacement. So I'm out there like with a walker trying to coach soccer. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, 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 you probably got to get on those travel teams, man, if you really want to, succeed as a soccer player, a kid, at that age, the normal, regular town league or whatever, there's just going to be a lot of just messy, not knowing what to do with the ball, like a bunch of kids just all surrounding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you actually made the right move as a coach, telling the parents that.
Yeah. Definitely. So what's up, man? What do you want to talk about? Is it the run of the mill? The Kings haven't made a move. Oh my gosh, the sky
Well,
is
man,
falling.
hey, this league is shaked up the last couple of days, man. We got Paul George in Philly, Tobias Harris back to Detroit, Klay Thompson is no longer a Warrior. We got DeJounte Murray's a Pelican now. We had, so many different moves. And Hartenstein's on the Thunder.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the rich got richer. The Thunder are gonna be a monster to deal with. Now they're gonna have to, in a year or two, figure out what they're gonna do with these salaries. But
they're going
up
all in
until
when
then,
they have some players cheap.
You have to in this NBA. That is what the Celtics did last season. That's what New York is doing this season. Shout out to Patrick, who is actually off work this week. So Patrick, maybe you're here. Hope you're having a good first day off. But you got to pounce on it. So that's what to me makes this a little bit tougher to swallow for the Kings, because
we have Keegan and Keon Ellis on fantastic contracts for their value.
Well, yeah, you've got Keegan. His rookie is going to be coming up here, not this season, but the season after. Keon, you still got him on a friendly deal, but it's not enough. I mean, it's good enough to win 45 games.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of trades have already happened. A lot of those second tier guys. Honestly, though, the main thing about like getting a guy like Brandon Ingram is, honestly, again, our main weakness was the Pelicans last season. No doubt about it. We lost them 6 times. They were 120% better than us at any turn that we took, And honestly, if we just find a way to, again, Brandon Ingram was one of the guys that caused trouble. Just taking away somebody from a team that was just such a thorn in our side could just improve us, maybe just two to 3 wins, maybe versus the Pelicans team. Because we know with Zion's history, he may be injured when we play him as well, or even CJ McCollum, and we might
could Brandon Ingram
too. But that's, I feel like, a very good risk because when he was healthy versus us, which was a good amount of the time, it was not fun to watch. It was literally just seeing like a 12th grader beat up a freshman.
Yeah, and the Rockets got the best of the Kings. And that was what was funny about this team, because you looked at their record against the better teams in the league, or the teams at the top of the West versus the teams at the bottom, and it's just backwards. Yeah. I just know this. I get that the Kings are pursuing certain things, Corn Dog. I get that they want to make that splash, but in Monty McNair's time here, outside of the Tyrese Halliburton trade that landed us Sabonis, we really have not done much trade-wise. Really nothing. I mean, you use your trade exception that was created from that trade to get Kessler Edwards, but I saw it in the chat just a little bit ago. I don't know. Are the Kings putting too many eggs in that basket that, hey, we're going to be able to pull off a trade? And when you go all in that spot, now you're in a spot where you're not really going to be able to improve the roster that dramatically. And let's set expectations. They only basically have the MLE to play with, but there were some decent players out there that you, in my opinion, you probably should have grabbed at least one of them.
Yeah, Nick Batum was available at
Correct. He goes back to LA.
Yeah, he was available around that price range. There were a couple. I mean, Tobias Harris signed for a lot less than what he got from that last contract.
Yep.
Which I expected because his play during that contract was not, top 10 guy. And so, honestly, Detroit might have got a huge value out of that one.
Yeah, Detroit's loading up. They are looking to turn that ship around now with JB Bickerstaff going to be the head coach there. It's confounding. This to me is the fourth time that the Kings will have swung and missed at whether it's trade deadlines, free agency. I get Malik Monk staying in Sacramento was a really big deal. I'm glad he's still here. I think I said it last night on the show that it shows you why he did not test free agency. The money is not out there. Clay gets 3 for 50 years. Valanciunas gets 3 for 30, or 3 for 50 years, 3 for $50 million for Clay.
Yeah, Batum signing MLE pretty much.
Small. Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. And so I don't know. I worry about, again, going back to the trades. We hear these names. We know there's interest. And now the Kings are backed into a corner. We talked about them trying not to be in a corner, but they are. Teams are going to gouge them. Absolutely gouge them because it's not like everybody wants to trade with you. There is still a competitive piece when you are looking to make trades. You are figuring how much better is that going to make our opponent? Does that now mean that they might be on our level? Does that mean they might pass us in the playoff rankings? So the teams we're talking about, it's far-fetched. I am really worried that this is going to be close to the roster that you see the Kings roll out there on opening day.
It could very well be that reality. And that just means, honestly, we may be a little less upset than last season because if we're, again, for the third time rolling this, I think almost everyone's going to be expecting 44 to 48 wins. Our expectations will be set because of the last 2 seasons would have told us exactly around what this roster will be. So I think we'll have a lot less upset and over panicking fans because we know what we have. Like there's no reason to believe that this team's a 50 plus win roster in this loaded Western Conference. There's just no chance in that happening, and we've seen it 2 times. We got close. We were able to sneak a 3rd seed in the first year because it was a year where there wasn't a 60 win team, and there really wasn't even any high 50 win teams in that Western Conference that year. But yeah, that's the only way we snuck a 3rd seed because normally that's a record in the Western Conference that's about 5 to 7 on a tough year.
Exactly. No, it's a very good point. 48 wins usually gets you somewhere between the 4 or 5 seed typically. I guess, have we made too much out of this team? That playoff year, maybe it was just an aberration. I mean, we came out of that year thinking, all right, we might have a championship window, and maybe it was just because we finally, we'd been in that drought. You've been walking through the desert. You're so thirsty. You finally get that first sip of water, and it's like, oh, this is the best thing ever. It's the best thing I've ever had in my life. Maybe these Kings just really, it's who they are. Like you said, 40 to 50 wins, first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then you look to get better.
Yeah. Same. We're going to guaranteed be, around that area. The Mavericks got better. Thunder got better, a lot better. Pelicans, if they don't trade Ingram, obviously they added DeJounte Murray, so they got longer at the guard position, and they're a defensive juggernaut, really. They lost Valanciunas. They're looking to replace him. They probably will find a replacement for him. Again, So they probably have gotten better. They got a scoring option with DeJounte Murray. Lots of teams are loading up. Philadelphia, I got better. New York Knicks got better.
Yeah, people that are putting Philly in the same category as the Knicks in Boston, I couldn't disagree with them more. Philly's got to prove it to me. They've got to be on the court.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't think they are. You can't put them there yet. No. But regular season-wise, I think they're going to be right there, healthy. Obviously, Paul George and Embiid are playoff chokers. I'm not going to, try and be wishy-washy about they're both playoff chokers, whether they're injured or, playing. They just haven't gotten it done at all. It's first round exits or second round exits. But on paper, they got better. Most anybody in the league, if right now, would you rather have Paul George or Tobias Harris as your third option? Most people will say Paul George.
Of course.
I don't know anyone who would pick Tobias Harris in that situation. So they did improve there, get an extra scoring option. I know during the playoffs when Embiid sat out in that Knicks series, his plus minus was incredible. Like they literally got destroyed when he was off the court.
Yeah, no, it is a good point.
So having a guy like Paul George to maybe carry a little bit of that load when he's off will help.
Yeah, it is, again, as long as they're able to stay healthy. That's the big if, because Paul George around the playoffs, I get it. Everybody's dealing with something that time of year, but
it's a little too much for those guys. Paul George and Embiid. It's been okay now. Come on, finally, come on.
Well, and here's the thing. This is the last shot for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
If you look at
not 24 anymore.
If you look at the Embiid tenure there, you look at that. If it does not work out with this, it's done. They're gonna have to blow things up and move on. But hey, brother, you expected anything today from the Kings? What's your gut tell you?
Man, you know what? Monty McNair's just not really aggressive like that. So I don't expect anything today, maybe later on in the week. But that's about it for me. And then after today's show, 3:00, I'm watching USA Uruguay.
Nice. Well, enjoy that. Grant will be on at 5. So make sure you guys stop by for that. He'll be doing an open forum and also talking about free agency, anything else that he feels like hitting. I'm actually going to the River Cats game tonight.
Oh, nice.
I'm a little bit worried about being in the sun. It's going to be hot, but we'll have a good time.
I've actually been out in the sun a lot at work right now.
Yeah.
I've been out in the yard because we had a lot of vacations and stuff. So I'm with the outside guiding the trucks and stuff.
Oh, geez.
So I've been out. Everyone's saying you gotten way tanner. I'm like, yes, sir.
It's that time of year, dude.
Yeah, I don't have to pay for a tanning booth.
There you go. It's that time of year. Appreciate you checking in, Corn Dog.
Later.
The one and only Corn Dog.
I'm back, baby.
He is back and better than ever. We got the Rido wheel that we will switch up there. I want to get to some of your comments. I've seen there's some really good stuff here. I don't want you to think I'm not seeing it. I do want to address some of the things that you guys are talking about here. EMG, where do you see the Kings on the standings table for the West if they don't make any more moves as of today right now? Well, today right now, any move that they're going to make, it's still the trade deadline, or not the trade deadline, free agency doesn't necessarily, in fact, I would say this, free agency probably helps them a little bit in that sense because teams are now kind of filtering out. They're getting put together a little bit more. So the likelihood of a trade coming down now that more free agents have signed goes up to me rather than down. But if no moves are made and the Kings roll into the season with this roster, I think you're going to be lucky to have a play-in team. And I think you're going to be lucky to hit 46 again. You'll definitely be in the 40-win territory, but 46, I don't put them much better than that. I don't. And I get the Kings could have been a 50-win team this year had they taken care of business in certain games. But the way that basketball in the Western Conference is being played right now, the Kings simply do not have the guys to match up with it, and that's on the perimeter. Keegan Murray, I expect him to still take another jump this year. I'm on record, and Jerry Reynolds has told us numerous times he thinks the jump that Keegan took between year 1 and 2 is greater than the one that Peja Stojakovic took. I'll take it a step further. Keegan's jump from year 1 to 2 was better than De'Aaron Fox's. So I expect big things from him. All eyes go to Devin Carter. What's he going to be able to do for the Kings? Is he going to be able to guard multiple guys on the wing? It appears so, but you never know. And then you also got to pay attention to his shoulder. Teams didn't think it was going to be a big deal, but you got to get him right. You got to make sure that he's completely healthy before you run him out there in the California Classic or Summer League. Will the Kings start Monk? What's up, Mike? I don't think they will. I would be surprised if they start Monk, but I am not opposed to it. Here's why. The Kings aren't good enough to play the matchup game in terms of, hey, we're going to wait to, have a better second punch off the bench. No, the Kings, if this is the roster they roll into the season with, you've got to give it your best right from the tip. So I would be all for that if the Kings decided to do that. Starting Monk will give you that third option on offense. See, when the Kings found their balance, I've talked about this a lot. When the Kings found their balance on offense the second half of the season, that was largely due to Keon Ellis. And it's not directly what he was contributing. What it was is there was no expectation to get him involved in the offense. And if you got him an open look, great. You needed him to knock it down. As he got more comfortable out there, he began making plays a little bit more, opening other guys up. That's the type of two guard, and that's kind of what Devin Carter brings. Reportedly, you talk to people around him in college, you talk to scouts, he brings the same thing. He can score the ball from beyond the arc, not much of a mid-range, but then he can also score at the rim. Keon working on his game at the rim, certainly. But you need a two guard that you don't have to, it's not a classic two guard, in my opinion, that Mike Brown likes to play. It's not a Michael Jordan. It's not a Kobe Bryant. It's not an Anthony Edwards. He likes to play a two guard that is more of this, I hate saying this because it's not a comp, but more of like a Doug Christie type of player where you can hit the open shot, but defense is your thing. So you got to be careful. I think that was one of the fatal flaws for the Kings offense, especially the first half of the season. There wasn't enough shots to go around for everybody. There just wasn't. And think about too, De'Aaron Fox, many games, he'll come out kind of slow. He'll get everybody else involved before he really looks for his own shot. So that's why I don't think the third option is as big of a deal. Mark hopping back in, talking about some soccer. Yes, the Kings still have not addressed their biggest need, a legitimate defensive center. I don't know if that was their biggest need. I don't think that Progressive, I don't think that's their biggest need. I think Alex Len for the price fits the bill just fine. Jay, I'll get you in here in just a minute. I want to catch up on the chat, though. Getting some talk about DeMar DeRozan. Yes, Vivek makes a lot of money, but it costs a lot of money to operate a basketball team. And I go back to this. Remember that COVID year? There was a lot of money that was left on the table because of COVID. So your big, large franchises in the big cities, they can deal with it a little bit better than the Kings can. And I'm not saying that the Kings aren't back on track, but that is certainly a consideration about spending over the past couple of years. The Kings needed to get things going. Fox will leave if they don't give him more than just Sabonis. Sabonis helped out with his happiness, but when you see other teams are doing, Fox has to be upset with the work environment. Well, he kind of came out and said that. Remember, I put that up about a week and a half weeks ago. He's not signing an extension in part because he wants to see what the roster does around him. We made a big conversation. You know what? I would even say a big splash on the Kings Court around the Rudy Gay podcast with Carmelo Anthony. And I think there is something to that about having your prime, I don't want to say wasted, but not having a team that is aggressively trying to put everything around you during your prime when you feel like you're playing the best basketball of your career. So could there be some frustration on that front? Absolutely. But remember, Fox last year was wildly inconsistent. He needs to get better too. He needs to get back to all-star De'Aaron Fox, and I think some balance. I mean, here's the thing. De'Aaron Fox last season was not his biggest threat is driving, his quickness. I maintain, and I say it all the time, he is the fastest player I've ever seen with a basketball. But he relied, and I know you got to do what the defense gives you, but he relied, in my opinion, a little too much on that three-point shot last year. And that extra point that you get from making a three does not mean more to the team than what you get from being aggressive, driving to the hoop, because that includes free throws. That includes getting teams into the penalty. That includes getting mismatches. So he's got to get back to that, because that is the key that opens everything up for Sacramento. And quite frankly, he needs to become a better pick and roll player. You can see the drop off in the pick and roll game, or at least the elevation in the pick and roll game when Malik Monk steps onto the floor with Domantas Sabonis. It's a big difference. Fox can do it. Fox can absolutely do it. Fox's three-point shot will open up way more as long as teams are worried. Teams think that he could go to the hoop. Teams think that he might use the screen. Last season, it always wasn't like that. So I think that's something that needs to get added into the game. Yeah, moves need to be made. Why are mid players getting $30+ million? Joke. Which players are you talking about? Which player got $30 million a year as a mid-level guy? EMG hopping back in. They should have cashed out after the team playoff year and ran off the beam. Yeah, no, that's not what Kings fan does. Come on now. I'm not going to be doing that. Adam, okay. Who's left to trade or sign? Let's see. A bag of chips, a Jim Boy's taco, a Krispy Kreme, a Costco gift card. Screw it. Sign LaVine. Hell to the no. No.
It's a complete crap.
That would be a complete crap move. I couldn't disagree with you more. That is a panic move. I mean, yeah, you get a first-round pick to take LaVine on? No way. He doesn't fit here in Sacramento. Carl, what's up? New name in the chat. If we have the same roster, fans are going to go ape shit, LOL. I don't disagree with you. I mean, if I could put a poll up right now, how many of you are going to be legitimately upset or legitimately turned off if this is the roster opening day? I'll pose that to you. Progressive, Kings 11 addressed. We already got that. Defensive center. They don't look progressive. Really quick, you know that blocks were up something like 14% last season. 14%. So I know JaVale McGee was a little bit of that, but that's also the help defense that the Kings were getting, whether it was a guy like Fox, a guy like Monk, Keegan Murray at times, and then also Alex Len. Alex Len did a really good job protecting the rim last year when he was in. So to me, I think that they, with what they're paying to bring Alex Len back versus what's on the market, I mean, Valanciunas, you could have got him if he was interested in Sacramento at $10 million a year. Does he protect the rim? Not necessarily. There really wasn't that player out there. I'm with you, BJ. 100% with you, my man, BJ.
I'm back,
He
baby.
is back. The Velociraptor of Sucktown. Yeah, for all those Jim Rome fans, apparently BJ was one of the OG Sacramento clones. And you got Gloss, the Velociraptor of Sucktown. That's a hell of a gloss, my man. Yeah, the Sixers, to me, you got to prove it. The Sixers seem like they're going to be like a 4th, 5th seed to me. And that's even if they do stay healthy. What's up, Patrick? Any decent centers out there? A lot of mid-level ones got poached yesterday. We'll go down the list here in a little bit. Nothing that, to me, really changes the temperature in the building. You're better off at this point really trying to continue to pursue a trade. That's what it's going to be. The names that you would want here in Sacramento, Najee Marshall, that was a good example. He went yesterday while we were doing the show. He went off the board. Those kinds of guys. I mean, I guess here's one team to watch. The Minnesota Timberwolves. They've got new ownership, and they are going to reevaluate that roster in Minnesota. And when you look at their playoff run this last year, Anthony Edwards is the key to what Minnesota does. He is a throwback. Looks like he just stepped out of a time machine from 1992. Love his game. Probably the most athletic player I've ever seen in my life. He made some freakish plays this last season. But Karl Anthony Towns, now that's an interesting name. I have heard some chatter that Karl Anthony Towns may or may not be in the long-term planning for that team. So if Cat became available, is that somebody you look at? I don't think so, but that certainly shakes things up in the West. So what the Kings have to do is, now that these chips have fallen into place to a degree, your bigger dominoes, your Paul Georges, your KCPs, your Klay Thompsons, now you got to look at the other team's rosters, and you have to try to anticipate what they may do, moves that they may try to make. You might need to anticipate who might be on the short list to go to the end of the bench now, and that is when you end up getting the best value for some of these guys. When teams are, before the season even starts, starting to get lower on a player because of somebody else that's come in, that is when it is a great opportunity for a team to swoop in, make a trade, make an offer, especially in this environment with the new CBA. We've seen how much this new CBA has affected the NBA and teams trying to get under, in the price to get under the salary cap, or at least get under that first apron, because you can be in the first apron. If you flirt with that second apron, you are going to be in a world of trouble. Baki, what's up? Luka is on the TV. I don't care about Luka. Baki, holy moly,
Jim Bowley.
I agree with you, BJ. I am 100% with you. Progressive. I keep seeing that same comment. Very interested. Kimball, Kings are going, or Patrick, my bad. Kings are going to have to trade to get improvement. 100%. Quit looking at the free agent market. There's nothing left that's going to significantly improve the Kings. Maybe if there's a big trade out there, you can become the third team in it and chip off a player that one of the teams may waive. You got to get creative, but I'm telling y'all, I am telling you, this is one of those situations that I feared, where the Kings are being reactive rather than proactive. They're reactive. If I wanted to put the Kings on my Rido wheel, there's a damn good argument about putting the Kings on my wheel. I mean, I get you can't force a move. I get that the bar is pretty low when it comes to free agency, because guys don't usually sign with Sacramento unless they have been with Sacramento at some point. But there's got to be more than 3 players in the NBA this team can target, right? There's got to be more than 3 players. Think outside the box. You've got to, and I'm not trying to say Monty and his team aren't doing everything to make something happen, because we don't know the story to that. My assumption is yes. I mean, I don't think that they thought the 13th pick would be made in the draft. I think they fully intended on that pick being traded. But what happened was that pick lost all of its value as soon as Zach Edey went off the board. As soon as Zach Edey went to Memphis, that changed everything, because teams were going to go subjective over best player available, which dilutes the value of that pick, because most likely then, if you're a team that's sitting back and you've got a guy circled, perfect example, Orlando and Tristan da Silva. Couldn't be a better match made in heaven between those two. Orlando needed shooting. They needed somebody that could step in immediately. And Da Silva is a guy the Kings were very high on as well. So they just fell into a position where the chips fell a little bit different than they thought they would. It is going to no. It's going to be interesting on how they solve this. I am not all in on James Wiseman. No chance. I think that would be a very bad move. There's ex-Kings that I would go to before James Wiseman. EMG, your analysis makes sense. Thank you for replying. Good luck, Kings. Yeah, we hope so. I appreciate that, my man. And if you're new to here, by the way, make sure that you give us a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. We get a lot of our views on YouTube or on X, but we are also on YouTube every day. If you don't like that, the boss, the man, Mr. If you don't like that, Grant Napier will be here at 5 o'clock doing an open forum show. If you've never been a part of one of those, here's what it is. You get to ask Grants about anything. I mean, as long as you're not going into, like taboo stuff and you're not going into politics and things of that nature, but it's a fun show. Some of our funnest shows, or some of the most fun shows we have done, have been shows that have nothing to do with sports. So make sure that you come check out the open forum show at 5 o'clock. Make sure you are subscribed as well. If you don't know, we do Kings pregame, halftime, and postgame shows for every game right here on If You Don't Like That. So the entire library of those is up. And then tomorrow, most of you know this, it is a Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. We'll talk to Jerry after the draft to get his read on what he thinks is going on in free agency, what he thinks is next for the Kings. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then I've been teasing the sports card link, the collecting link. We are going to be hitting that itch too in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. I've got that lined up. So we will have an afternoon where we talk about card collecting, the rise of that, the business of it, et cetera, because apparently a lot of you still collect cards. That's pretty damn cool. So yeah, we'll be doing that. And then I've teased this as well. Gabriel Harris, the acting GM of the Stockton Kings, will be joining us here on the Kings Court here in the next couple weeks. That's going to be a fun conversation. Make sure you are here for that. You don't usually see guys come on shows touch. So Gabriel is a great guy. Happy going to come on and talk some Kings hoops with us, and certainly want to focus on the Stockton element of that too. He's part of that team that identified Keon Ellis. You got to give him a lot of credit there. So Carl saying maybe Devin Carter will end up being Rookie of the Year and ball out. Maybe. We'll see. I bet you there's odds on that already. Believe it or not, you can bet on anything this time of year. Yep, Len got the blocks. Look, Len played, to me, if you look at guys that have improved on very limited play, Alex Len is on that short list for the Kings. In fact, I would go as far as to say, depending on what Sabonis does with his game in terms of stretching it out, if he's able, again, he doesn't have to do it at a high clip. He doesn't have to make threes at a high clip. He doesn't have to make twos at a high clip from the mid-range. He just has to be able to hit those shots confidently. He's got to be a threat. He's got to be to the point where teams have to respect that, because one of the big differences for the Kings offensively, well, two things. The first thing was when teams started sagging off Domas. You remember that started not just in the playoffs against the Warriors. It actually started earlier that season. Toronto was the first team to do it. And I remember sitting, not at this desk because the studio was not here yet, but I remember sitting here doing a post-game show and us talking about how that was going to be trouble. It felt like that was a game plan that other teams, and the NBA is a copycat league, that other teams might pick up on. And that's exactly what the Kings have faced ever since then. So Domas being able to be that triple threat. Yeah, I'm going back to fundamental basketball. Triple threat, you can either shoot, you can pass, you can dribble. Same thing. You can either take it to the lanes, you can do the DHO, you can set the pick on the pick and roll, you can do a flare. But if you add the jump shot into it again, because you still need Domas to get to the free throw line. If Domas doesn't get to the free throw line and the Kings continue the trend they had last year with getting to the free throw line, they're going to be in serious trouble. And that's why, again, yesterday, I tried to kind of paint a little bit better of a picture for us as a fan base, because I go back to this. So many of the Kings' problems last year, De'Aaron Fox not talking to the media for 16 days, self-inflicted. Free throws, attempts down 16+%, self-inflicted. Made free throws, down 21.6%. I challenge you to go find another team in the NBA that went down more than 20 percentage points in made free throws from one season to another. I've got to think that is one of the bigger gaps out there. And that's something, again, that is fixable. And most of that happened before the refs started letting the guys play. I mean, there were games the first half of the season where the Kings got to the line like 8 times, sometimes like once or twice in a half. You can't do that. You got to be balanced. You have to be balanced. So seeing a lot of soccer talk still up in the chat. Derek hopping in. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him either. Yeah, Haunted Horse. I get it. You said cat, mate. Haunted Horse, man. Are you here to make the show better, or are you here to bring me down? I'm just wondering, Haunted Horse. First, you start the cat debate in the chat, right? And then it goes to gym boys, and then it goes to fast food, and now we're doing drops about cat. Haunted Horse, my man. What would happen, Haunted Horse, if I came in and blew your show up? HollywoodRejects.com. Yeah, what if I went to HollywoodRejects.com and just ended up trolling one of your shows? How would that go, Horse? Would it go well for you? We'll see. Look, now he's even getting reaction from people. BJ, don't react to Haunted
It's
Horse.
a complete crap.
Don't give him what he wants. That's what he wants. EFG, you missed my last question, but the other questions were answered legit. When I said cash out, I didn't mean sell the team. I meant cash out on the good players when the hype was up. No, you don't want to do that. But the Kings are getting to a position. I mean, who would you have cashed out on then, EMG? Fox? Keegan Murray? No, probably not. So they're getting close. Now, by the way, this is something we have not breached yet today. But with De'Aaron Fox having 2 years left on his deal, for all intensive purposes, if you get any hint, any sniff that De'Aaron doesn't want to be in Sacramento or might not re-sign with the team, you got to start looking. By this trade deadline, this coming season, that has to be a viable option. And they are going to be the only ones that know that. The ones in the building, unless it leaks to the media. You have got to start fielding offers and testing the market to find out what he is worth, because you can't let him walk away for nothing. And again, if he gets all NBA, Grant made this point, and I do agree with him, because De'Aaron not just is waiting to see how the roster materializes, he's betting on himself. He wants to get a super max contract, which would pay him north of $60 million a year. The Kings' hands would be tied if De'Aaron Fox got made it to an all-NBA team, because that means the Kings are probably doing pretty damn well and probably towards the top of the Western Conference. So sorry I missed your question. I will definitely get to that, or I'll go check that out later. Dago, what's up? So who are we getting? Are we going to have another season empty-handed? Well, a lot of people think the Kings excelled, did really well with their draft pick. So, this doesn't change the pressure on Devin Carter. The fact that Davion Mitchell gets traded away a day after Devin Carter is drafted, that ups the pressure. That means there's a lot of confidence in that young man. And I know the Kings needed to get below that apron, which they did. But I think you're going to be running it back, Dago. I don't see Monty McNair. I don't see him committing long-term to anybody. I mean, think about this. Brandon Ingram right now sounds great, doesn't it? It sounds really good. And I know that we've talked about maybe some things that don't work with him, but on the whole, a player like Brandon Ingram, it translates to the basketball that most teams are playing in the NBA right now. And especially defensively, it gives you that length out on the wing. Okay. But remember, Brandon Ingram is only under contract this year. So if the Pelicans want 2 first-round picks, 3 first-round picks, how are you going to, I mean, let's say, hypothetically, I hit this right now. Kings fans, breaking news. This is all hypothetical. The Kings have traded for New Orleans Pelicans all-star Brandon Ingram. In exchange, the Kings will be sending Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, 2 first-round picks, and a second-round pick to the Pelicans. Brandon Ingram will be a Sacramento King. Okay, let that set in for 10, 15 seconds. Now let me repeat the back end of that. The Kings will be sending Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, 2 first-round picks, future first-round picks, and a second-round pick for a guy that you're only going to have for a year, unless it was a sign and trade and he signed on longer, which is probably unlikely. Could Sacramento retain him? Absolutely, but it's not guaranteed. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, even if that goes through and that happens, that is a heavy mortgage on the future. Now, it does allow you to stay in line with what Monty likes: fluidity, liquidity with his assets, being able to shift those around if he needs to at any given time, because it is only a 1-year commitment. It's not like a Zach LaVine who signed through 27, 28, but that is a hefty price. So I ask, does Brandon Ingram make your team that much better in the interim? Are the Kings ready with the roster as it sits right now today? Does Brandon Ingram really change the picture that much? It seems like a move like that is like a Mikal Bridges move. It seems like that's the type of move that comes after you have a really successful playoff run, when you know you have something special going in your building, when you legitimately know you could be a contender. That's when you do that move, usually. So that's why I question the timing of it. And maybe it is more and more likely that, hey, we keep it as it is. There's going to be a team out there that, look, there's interest in Harrison. New Orleans likes Harrison Barnes. They do. Kevin Huerter, shooting. I know the shooting wasn't good this last year in Sacramento, but still a very good shooter over his entire career. Those guys have value. So if you need to make a move midseason, you can. But I guess my point being, are we spinning our wheels for nothing? Think about that for a second. Are we spinning our wheels for nothing? Play it through. Think about when you think about what you give up on the back end for 1 year. What's Brandon Ingram realistically do? Does he realistically take you from a play-in to a playoff team? I don't think he takes you from a playoff or a play-in team to a contender. It's a lot to ask. There is a lot to think about with this. What's up, C-Dog? Welcome in Scenario EMG. For sure a player, or for sure a play-in team instead of currently maybe a play-in team. Yeah. Wait. Oh, you're saying for sure a play-in team. Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. Hey, I welcome your phone calls. Would love to have you on the show. You can hit the link that I am putting in the chat right here. You can also call the show 916-399-3748. No call screener. So if we already have a call up on the screen, just try calling back here in a little bit. I already see my boy TC called. I'll get to him in a second. But first, we bring Jay in on the conversation. What is up, Jay? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing well, my friend.
Good. Well, there's been a lot of movement throughout the NBA, through the East, the West, the drama with Klay Thompson, and the GM LeBron James over there in LA, pretty much betting $20 million that they won't make a move in the front office. That's pretty much what's going down all over there. And the Clippers letting not Kawhi, Paul George walk for nothing. Speaking of that, I wanted to touch on, I was listening earlier and you said that you couldn't disagree further with Philly being contenders.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, if Kawhi Leonard were the one to join the Philadelphia 76ers, would you still have that same opinion, or would you think
100%.
And why is that?
Because Joel Embiid, number one, has a trouble. And I get he played through Bell's palsy. That is a gnarly thing to play through this last playoff series. But they can't stay on the court. At some point, he'll be off for 20 games. Paul George is going to miss games. Kawhi missed a ton of playoff time, traditionally always has. I've got to see it. I've got to see it before I can consider them a contender. It seems like Philly was supposed to be a contender with James Harden. No, not so much. So it's just one of those things. Prove it to me first.
I think, that's a great point. But on the other hand, I think that you can't just go off of they might not be here to play. I don't think that's what a franchise is trying to compete to do. When they're trying to win a championship, they don't think of that. I don't think you take into consideration that, because that can happen to any team. Jason Tatum can tear his ACL next season.
Right.
Jaylen Brown can too. LeBron, even though he's been healthy for 20 years, he's 40. He can tear his Achilles next season. But you still are making these moves, assuming that they'll be healthy. So assuming that all three of those guys, Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid, is healthy, you still don't think that they would be a competitor in the East?
Well, no, so to your point, yes, anybody can get hurt at any time, Jay. But my point is those guys always seem to get hurt. The guys you mentioned sometimes get hurt. You know what I'm saying? Embiid missed an entire season. Embiid had issues with his knee and then his face. I think he have surgery during the season.
I don't recall, but I know he had like an MCL tear or something like that towards the end of the season, and then the Bell's palsy as well.
So that's why, and I'm taking Maxey out of the conversation there. He's been very durable. He's been able to stay on the court just because of their lengthy history of always seemingly getting hurt at the important times of the year. And you know what else you can add to that conversation? Giannis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but you could say the same for De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis. It could happen to us in Sacramento.
Well, it could, but again, how often there's only been one time De'Aaron missed a significant chunk of time. That was the Halley year. Sabonis missed one game after the fracture in his finger, the avulsion fracture. So yeah, it could happen. I'm just saying the likelihood that something will happen to them is a little bit higher because traditionally that's how it's played out.
So if you're the GM in Philadelphia with this cap space that they have or had, and you have Embiid and Tyrese Maxey or going into next season, you wouldn't make the move to get Paul George.
Oh, 100% I would. I'm not knocking the move. I'm just saying as a contender, I'm not ready to put them up with the Knicks because you know what I saw with the Knicks? I saw OG Anunoby trying desperately to play through a hamstring. The guy could barely walk,
Mm-hmm.
You see them battle. Their team rose up when guys went down. Randall went down. Then Brunson breaks his hand the last game. They're playing through stuff tough. And it just gives a different flavor. And a lot of those guys aren't hurt as often as the guys that we're talking about.
I wish there could be a whole season where no players got injured at all.
Amen.
We would really see who's really them.
Absolutely.
What team is really that? But I agree. You can't not get Paul George. I agree with you. Obviously, there's a risk, but you cannot not get Paul George if you're Philadelphia, especially with the Knicks and the Celtics. And they're going to be spoken about a lot this season. The Knicks already finished in the second place in the Eastern Conference, and losing Isaiah Hartenstein didn't really impact them that much with the offset of Mikal Bridges.
Yes.
And that team technically has been proven to win together already at the highest level with the Villanova experience. And then potentially having a healthy OG Anunoby and a healthy Julius Randle pushes that pretty much further. My issue is with the Knicks, it's kind of no secret what their strategy was this season, and it was to build a team that will beat the Celtics.
Yes, you're spot on, Jay.
And I couldn't disagree with that from the furthest. Like I think that's a terrible idea. I believe the same thing happened with the Timberwolves. They built a team to beat the Denver Nuggets with two bigs. And I think what happens is when you get caught up trying to beat one team rather than build your own team, you kind of get stuck with just being able to defeat this one team because all your focus is matching up with this one team. That would be the same thing if the Kings were trying to just match up only with the Pelicans to beat the Pelicans. If we were to go and get like a heavy set forward or a power forward who's heavier set. No, by heavy set, I mean like a strong, maybe like a Miles Bridges type of person to put on Zion Williamson, like a solid 230, 240 guy who's athletic so someone can guard Zion. That would be the same. It'd be a mistake for us, though. So I think that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration when you are competing in the NBA is people tend to get caught up in chasing the champion and molding teams to beat that exact team. I think what the Sixers did in this scenario was very interesting. They have an A-tier guy at each main position of their starting lineup. And yes, Paul George is still an A-tier guy. If you look at Paul George and Kawhi Leonard's stats, Kawhi Leonard averaged one more point than Paul George and one more assist than Paul George this season. But you have an A-tier guy at small forward position, Maxey at the point guard, and Embiid at the center. And in my opinion, I think Embiid is the best center in the league. Yes, better than Jokic. He is him. Jokic is healthy, but Embiid is him. He's him.
Wow.
So, I think Embiid is going to be, if Embiid can pull off 2-3 championships, he's going to be considered better than a Shaquille O'Neal legacy, in my opinion. They have a similar makeup. They're strong, tall, and he's more athletic and can shoot better and create his own shot in the mid-range as well. He's him. Like he is him. He really is.
You keep using the him, man.
Yeah, he is him.
Huh? All right. Hey,
Joel Embiid.
Joel
Embiid.
Embiid. There you go.
Yeah.
We're making new stuff up here on the Kings Court. I mean, that's what I love about this time of year. We get to have these conversations, we get to break those little things down. Who's better? Who's worse? I don't know. I mean, if you took Embiid and
he's the best center in the league right now, in my opinion, not of all time. Just wanted to clarify that for the comments.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough one.
You're putting Jokic up there?
Yeah, you have to. The offense runs through him.
I don't think you saw what Embiid did this season. He had Bell's palsy, and he was on one leg. He was a literal pirate, a pirate with a pirate's eye patch and a peg leg. That was him out there.
Dude, and dropped 70. I respect the hell out of what Embiid did. I am just strictly talking about who is a talented or more talented player because they're such different players. That's all I was taking out. I'm trying to think and trying to conceptualize. Hey,
Jokic
I know
you're
on the Embiid payroll. I get it, but I'm just kidding. Embiid, dude. You know what? He's a special talent. I wish nothing but the best for him. I hope he is able to stay on the court. I don't want to come off as somebody that's like, oh, they're going to be hurt because I want them to be hurt. No, Like
Of
you said,
course, yeah, we want
I-
to see him healthy.
yeah,
for
I want to
sure.
see the best competition possible.
Is it fair to say that he was carrying the Sixers? I mean, you saw what the Sixers did when he was hurt. They went like they won like 3 or 4 games and lost like 15 or something like that.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument, and he shoots free throws well too. That is something for a big man that is important. Shaq didn't do that. Jokic pretty good from the
And
free throw
Jokic
line.
has a great supporting cast compared to what just happened on the Eastern Conference when Embiid was hurt. If Jokic was hurt, I'm sure the Nuggets would have been better than like 4-15 without Jokic.
Yeah, it's funny when Jamal Murray goes out for the Nuggets, even when he's off the court and Jokic is on the court, they tend to struggle as well. It's an interesting conversation. So I'm going to ask you the same question that, hey, look, dude, this is catching on now. Embiid.
Yeah, Embiid. And
Did you really make that up? Come on.
Yeah, Embiid also didn't win MVP because of his games missed. It's incredible how they underestimate how hard it is to score 70 points.
Dude, it's very hard. I dare somebody in this room right now to try to think about scoring a basket in the NBA, period. Like, forget about it. Like, you got a better chance of like making a full court shot with nobody on you than making one in the half court usually.
Exactly.
So it's different for sure. So as we sit today, what do you see next for the Kings? I'm asking everybody this. And as a fan, how are you feeling right now about the situation they sit in?
I'm not worried because Devin Carter is going to win us a championship, apparently.
I said you, not what you're reading.
Oh, well, I don't know. Monty, I heard he was at Burlington looking for some more vests for next season, so I don't know what he's doing right now.
He was wearing a vest after during his press conference. I know. That was funny. Summertime, still rocking the vest.
How do I feel about the current team, though? Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's kind of sad to see, like, what's gone on because there were a lot of people that were free agents, a lot of free agents that could have accepted, a mid-level exception to play here in Sacramento. This is just the name. Please don't shame me for saying it, but like Kelly Oubre took a 2-year, $16 million deal in Philly.
Yep.
I mean, $4 million, if we offered him the full MLE, which I think he's worth, I think his defensive rating is better. I think when I was looking at it, it was better than Barnes and Herters, and adding him as a role player might be good. But someone like that, who knows if he would have took the $12 million in Sacramento or not? Who knows if the Kings even were interested in a player like that? But small upgrades, maybe retooling, I guess you can say is a better word. It's kind of out the window at this point. As you said, a lot of those guys are gone. I mean, there are some guys out there. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. is a name that has rang some people's bells, but he's a shooting guard. We have Monk, and we still have, we got the great Devin Carter now. He's going to bring us home a chip. But Keon Ellis, like, we have a lot of shooting guards. We don't really need that. Plus, I think he's worth more than a mid-level exception. So I'm not exactly sure how he would get signed because no team right now has more than a mid-level exception to offer, if I'm not mistaken, according to Spotrac.
No, you are right. And I'm just seeing if we have any updates at the moment, if anybody else is off the board. Nope. It's just still the continued Lauri Markkanen sweepstakes. That one's heating up.
Didn't I? I told you where he was going to end up. Do you remember? This was like probably a few weeks ago. I told you Lauri Markkanen will end up on the Warriors. You go all in, and that was the guy that I said. And
the Warriors, I can tell you for a fact, 'cause I did talk to somebody, they are not happy about missing on Paul George. They really
that was going to be very difficult to do.
I know.
And there was the Clippers were being very petty. He wanted to go to the Golden State Warriors. I don't know why they just let him walk. It was probably because it was a Western Conference team. Paul George and Golden State would have sold a lot of tickets, of course, but I don't think 100%. That would have made them champions. That wouldn't have.
No. It'd be a fun brand of basketball.
Exactly.
A
It
really
would,
fun brand.
people would tune in for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the Warriors does. But as far as what the Kings are doing, back to that, I mean, it's honestly, there's really nothing much to say. I mean, we've seen what happened already.
We've seen this movie before. You know, you're spot on.
And it's like, I really don't even. I mean, I don't want to. I watched every Kings game last season. Do I want to watch the same team? I mean, I probably will. But it's like, if you're not going to make any changes, you're beating a dead horse at this point, right? I know for a fact the front office is trying to move off of Barnes and Herter. It seems like they're
100%.
pretty aggressive to do something like that. For who? For Ingram, that's far-fetched in my opinion. I'm not saying it's unlikely, but I don't think it's necessarily too probable before the season. Like you said, it'd probably be towards the trade deadline. So that's an option, but why would you want to wait that long and waste prime Sabonis, prime Fox, when the East just became competitive again?
There's no reason, by the way, like zero reason to do it at the trade deadline. 'Cause then you have them for half of a year. And if you're
Less
still
than half.
yeah, and if you're still making that move, that means your team's probably underachieving, which means
It's just not good.
it's not good. I mean, what this really opens up to me, this could be, if things remain the way they are right now, and the Kings roll with Devin Carter and they quote unquote run it back again with what they have. Maybe you get a guy that steps up as a two-way, or somebody in summer league that shows out and makes the 13, which is highly unlikely. Let's be clear about that. This could be the first step in the process of De'Aaron Fox's exit out of Sacramento.
I don't blame him. If he did make NBA All-Team, we'd be able to offer him $60-something million.
Yeah,
So that
61.
would, yeah, you said 61?
It's about 61 a year, yeah.
Yeah, there's no other team that can offer him that and would offer him that, even in free agency if they had cap. I mean, you saw with the cap space that Philly had. They didn't even have that much. I don't think it was. I think it was like 55 or something. Maybe it was about 60. But they're not going to spend that on one player. No team will do that. So we do kind of have leverage regarding that if he does end up making the NBA All-Team. But if he doesn't, then he's not going to walk. I think Monty would trade him.
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to. You
But
can't risk that. Yeah.
That would happen. I think the Kings are somewhat more loyal to Domantas Sabonis, just all going off contracts and the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But that's no disrespect at all to Fox. I mean, they drafted him and they stuck with him. So I think he does like it here. I think he starts to enter that phase of his career, even though he's so young. At 26, he'll be 28 years old, I believe, when that contract is up.
I don't know his exact age, what it'll be.
I believe he'll be 28. And you kind of have to ask yourself, if you did make that NBA all-team NBA, whatever, and you're 28, is it about that 61 million? Or do you want to go somewhere and compete for maybe 40 million?
Well, you see most players wanting to compete traditionally. You know, even LeBron said this year, even though he backtracked, he was going to want the bag. He said, oh, well, you know, maybe I'll take 15 million less and we can improve the roster now that Klay Thompson's gone. Because, you know, LeBron, that was when free agency called. LeBron called Klay Thompson.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, hey,
well,
get up over
right
here.
at 3:00, allegedly.
Yeah.
It was before. Same thing with the JJ Redick.
Of course. Yeah. Yes. It's a joke. But anyways, yeah, I think that when you come from a situation like that in Sacramento, where time here for De'Aaron has to have been partially frustrating. There's no doubt about that. There was frustration last year. Documented. Dude didn't speak to the media for 16 days. So it's an interesting crossroads. I don't think that it's going to come down to that. I do think, and Haunted Horse brings this up about getting picks. You got to start thinking about that. The 2025 draft is supposed to be a
very deep
monster So yeah, it's a big conversation. If the Kings run it back, here's the bottom line, Jay, and then I'll let you go in a sec. The Kings, as I look at the roster, you got Domas, Fox, Harrison, Malik, Herter, Keegan, Lyles, Duarte, Jalen McDaniels, Alex Len, Keon Ellis, Colby Jones, and you've got Mace on a two-way, and then you've got Devin Carter, who will be signing soon. We have the exact same problem. They have the exact same problem. They have too many finishers and not enough creators. Even though Fox and Sabonis predominantly ran the offense last year, they were both in the top 20 in turnovers in the NBA because of their burn rate. Nobody else, because Malik was hurt. Now, Malik is still a creator. Malik can create, but outside of those three players, you don't have creators. Like, who can go get a basket on their own? I know Harrison can do it once in a while down low when he gets the chance, but you are really tied up there. That makes it really hard. It is not difficult to game plan for a team where only 2 or 3 guys can create the offense for their teammates. It's not good for the Kings. Not good.
Yeah, and that, I mean, do you go and look at a guy like a Lauri Markkanen and include Keegan Murray in the trade?
No, I don't think so, because Lauri, the payday number one that he's going to be due, but Keegan, to me, fits defensively more what Mike Brown wants to do. Keegan is the defensive leader of this team, in my opinion, and they're going defense right now. You saw him drafting Devin Carter. You saw how they played at the end of the season last year. Their net rating almost triples after the All-Star break, despite scoring going down. So no, I don't give up Keegan. I would entertain giving up Fox before I gave up Keegan.
Fox for Markkanen? I don't know if I would like
I'm
that.
not throwing that out there. I'm just saying that's the piece I would.
I see what you're
first.
saying, though. It would also match like the salary as well, and
Correct.
when you cap them down. But I mean, at some point, you kind of got to go all in, and you have to know when to go all in.
Well, it's a great point. There's going all in, right? Like the Knicks did with Mikal Bridges.
That's
And
not.
then-
I mean,
and
sure,
then-
you could call it that, but he's never been an all-star. But I understand where you're coming from.
But then you bring back okay. You get what I'm.
Yeah,
They
I
feel
do.
like this is their window. That's their guy. That's going to help take it over the top. They bring back OG. They're doing everything that they want to do. And Brunson's the next dude that's going to have to get paid, by the way. He's only making like 24 mil, I think.
He's been overperforming tremendously.
100%. He's going to be asking for his payday soon. But the Knicks are in that territory, as we said earlier in the show, where it's like, all right, maybe we are a move away. We are an Aaron Gordon away. So now we push all of our chips to the table. The Kings are in a position right now where it's like, hey, we need to push all of our chips to the table just to maybe make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really going all in. So there's a difference between all in and then obviously shaking things up, a reset without rebuilding. You can reset without rebuilding.
Yeah, and it's difficult because with this Kings team, like you said, they kind of did it to themselves, self-inflicted wounds. So it's like, should we have made the playoffs this year? Probably.
Yes, absolutely.
But we didn't. But at the same time, if we were to make a move that were to go all in, where would that put us in today's NBA? And you think about that, and
that's my point, Jay. Even if you make the biggest move out there, the Kings, they're not even close with any move that's on the table right now. How much is a move now about appeasing the fan base than actually improving the team? Let's be real about it.
Yeah, there's not very many people. I mean, it goes back to those forwards.
Yeah,
of Ingram and Kuzma, really, that are maybe the most realistic. And you might be able to keep Keegan Murray. If you can keep that, keep what you have now and potentially add one of those, is that an all-in move? And where does that put the Kings?
I think
Cam Johnson is I just saw that. Cam Johnson is another one. I've been saying that like 4 or 5 months ago.
Yep, you definitely have been saying that. Hey, brother, I'm going to address that with you off because I'm going to get to BJ in a second. But thank you for the call. Appreciate it, Jay.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Again, I think that's a shakeup. It's not really it's not a reset. It doesn't make you crazy better. It just puts you on par. It's kind of like the cost of living adjustment. You know, in your paychecks, the COLA, the cost of living, it would be basically the Kings' cost of keeping up with the rest of the NBA and what other rosters are doing to change and get better. And yet, Cam Johnson would be an excellent target. I guess one thing that you could argue if you're a Kings fan here is that maybe the Kings have showed their hand a little too much with how much they like Kuzma, with how much they like certain players. And that has been part of the reason the price has been driven up so high. From Jay, we go to my man, dude. This guy, by the way, best first-time call in the history of this show. And I know the show's relatively new. We haven't even been on for a full year. But last time, BJ absolutely nailed it, bringing him back for an encore. What's up, dude?
Okay, how are you doing? I'm at work. I got the earpiece in. Hopefully you can hear me. I may get called away, but I wanted to get in on this talk. You brought up a good point about that the Kings may have shown their hand too much in their love for certain players. And now I'm starting to think maybe they're just gonna hold, see what's going on, let things play out, see what kind of body language and what Fox brings before they give him any type of huge payday or use them as trade. I mean, I don't think, and just wait. Like we might go into, a quarter of the season, half of the season, and before there's a big move. I think the next big move is going to be Fox. I think we're waiting for all these big moves. I hope we're not trying to, just make a move to do a move. I mean, sometimes doing that hurts more. I also think that the Kings, the mentality of just offense needs to shift a little bit. So I think we're all fanatics and we're all like, oh my gosh, we need to make a move because all these chips are falling. But are they really falling so hard that we're gonna fall deep into lower into the ranks? If you look back on the last season, there's just a lot of unforced mental errors that we could have won several games with the team that we have. I think we're better now, believe it or not, after having the season under our belt. And that's the thing about the process of building an asset and a championship or a good family or a business is that you have to take your lumps. You have to take your lumps. That's how you learn. And I think the Kings are in that phase. So I think there's something's going to be done. I like Cam Johnson. I'd really like marketing from Utah, but I doubt they'll give him up. So hey, I wanted to let everybody know that I picked up some cards the last couple of days, and so my first one, which I'm very proud of, and I actually had it nailed
full screen so you can show the cards right. Here we go.
Hopefully there's no glare. This is this is what they call a die cut of Roberto Clemente. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's a beautiful card. Beautiful card. Picked up this. I'm not a Niner fan, but I really like Brock Purdy. I love his tenacity and the way he plays. It's really cool rookie card. Good stuff. Here's a guy. I got another one. I got a good deal on these. This is probably one of my favorite pickups in a long time. Look at that. Isn't that sick? Isn't that freaking cool? Look at him. He's about ready to do his little craziness. So awesome.
That looks like the play right before he's about to shake Gary Payton right out of his gloves.
Here, stand by. Respiratory. Yeah, how you doing?
This is great. I'm gonna put BJ on hold for a second. We'll let him take care of his work in privacy. He obviously works at a hospital. BJ is our resident card guy too, and he is also the Velociraptor of Sucktown, according to Jim Rome. Really quick, the more that, and this is what I love about the King's Court, we kind of talk these things out. You put your input in the chat. I'm reading it, I'm reacting, I'm thinking in live time. And the more, I've been the first one here in Sacramento, and I've taken some shit for it. Talking about a possible Fox trade, a possible, do the Kings move on from a De'Aaron Fox? It's really starting to kind of materialize in a way, indirectly, what BJ is talking about. And if you even look at that a step further with the pick of Devin Carter, which is really interesting. Now, he's a combo guard, but he's certainly more of a quote unquote Mike Brown guard. The ball doesn't stop with him. It's defense first. And, I wonder, maybe we are all thinking too much of this move right now versus the move that's really the most right in front of our faces that we need to acknowledge. Because when you are a superstar, I'll bring BJ back up. When you are a superstar, like superstar is a strong word. When you are an all-star, like De'Aaron Fox, much like Donovan Mitchell this season with Cleveland, these things start getting talked about a year in advance. And when you're a team like the Kings, where now, let's say, BJ, they go into this season with this roster that we see right now, they do about the same, maybe a little bit better than last year. Like you said, a lot of self-inflicted wounds. Then maybe that is the evidence. That's 2.5 years. You've seen the best of it. You've seen the worst of it. You've seen in between. It's time for a drastic change. A change that fits the style, a change that fits the way the team is moving. And I guess maybe that's what makes this this conversation we're having that much more important, because you're starting to come up on that time with De'Aaron and his contract. BJ, go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we're gonna hold our cards close to our chest, and I think we're gonna wait for things to articulate. And some things aren't going to work out with other teams. And let's face it, there are a lot of teams out there that would love to have a Fox. I think with the draft pick, and I think us not immediately jumping on some of these other guards, particularly point guards, shooting point guards, so to speak. It seems to me that we're going to play it close, and we're going to see and kind of make them show up and see what type of mentality, because we're always talking about culture and identity. Your best player and your leader has to have that dog mentality to set the culture, to set the identity. If Fox is not coming in, and I'm not saying I love Fox, I'm just saying that
too.
If things aren't swayed towards more the style of how Brown coaches, and defensively, we have to get defensive mindset, and then that's just something that we just have to do. And so I'm more apt to keeping Keegan Murray because of his defensive mentality, the way he slides his feet, how he plays offside team defense, weak side team defense. He's incredible. If you watch him away from the ball, he's phenomenal. He should give a clinic every day to the Kings. And because of that, this is one of my favorite cards. I just picked this up. This is a beautiful card. This is a rookie card. Look at how blingy that is. Just
wow. You got Keegan off his feet there. Love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful card. I'm more of a vintage card type of guy, but I love my Kings, so I try to pick up some Kings stuff.
Bro, you're at work. Do you just keep your cards locked and loaded with you at all times, or what?
So what happens, I got a little bit of a shipment. I was packing my stuff. I do some long shifts, and I just threw all my mail in my backpack, and I was thinking, I worked the last couple of days. I was like, I'll call in on Monday, and I'll show my cards to you. And I just opened them, so it's kind of like it's like Christmas every time I get a little package. And I thought I would share with you guys. It kind of be my little thing, cards and cacti and mindset of tenacity and the significance of being a light in the world is something that I strive for. You know, I'm an old man. I think it's up to the older men to show that and be that for young men, so they can see it and emulate that. So yeah, I look forward to meeting up with you sometime. I may go out to Vegas, but I'm thinking maybe I'll just go to the Kings one and hit Vegas next year. I don't know. I'm still kind of deciding what I'm gonna do. So
Well,
yeah,
you got time. Let me know.
yeah. Oh, and I IG'd you. Message me back so I have a little bit more conversation with to have a few ideas want to run by you.
For sure. I appreciate it, BJ. Thanks.
Right
for
on. I
calling
love the
show,
show. I love the show. Love the chat. I love Haunted Horse except for that he likes cats. So sorry.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a downside. It comes with the territory. You got to take the good with the bad with that
Yeah.
guy.
I tried to find his show, but man, I had a hell of a time trying to find. I wanted to troll and just get on there and just blow it up, but I could not find it. I have a hard time.
Dude, there's been a couple of people that have come on and trolled a little bit. So yeah, make sure you do that. HollywoodRejects.com is where you can find his work. Yes.
Nice.
Hollywood Rejects. So
I gotta get back to work.
Appreciate you, brother. Be well.
Love you. Love you too.
That is BJ. Great call by him. So Matthew, really quick. So we're gonna get ready to wrap the show up. We haven't even done a ride-o yet. We need to get to one of those. Brown can only work with what he has. It was mediocre last season offensively. How many people here know? Raise your hand if you knew that Mike Brown handed over the keys to the offense last year to the players predominantly, or at least in this sense. The year before, when they made the playoffs, Mike Brown was calling plays about 85% of the time. 85% of the time. This season, it was the complete opposite. Mike Brown admitted as much towards the end of the season after a shoot-around that he had barely called any plays offensively. So maybe that is part of the problem too. So I'm not, to your second point, I am not saying that you trade Fox. What I am saying is that whole situation is here right now. That situation is here. That situation is starting to play out. That situation with Fox doesn't start next season. It starts right now. Do not be surprised. You are paying Malik Monk $17 million a year. It's a lot of money for a sixth man. What if Devin Carter materializes, shows the ability, proves to be a Mike Brown guy, quote unquote? Because what I do know, and I'm going to end the Kings portion of the show here, what I do know about the Kings is the basketball that they played after the All-Star break, despite their injuries, and to a degree, they were forced into that corner. There had been some reported pushing or kind of tug and pull between the front office and Coach Brown about personnel, etc. You'd heard reports about that. You know, Mike Brown wanted some more Mike Brown type of guys. Well, Devin Carter seems to be a Mike Brown type of guy. But going back to last season, when the Kings were forced to play that style of basketball that was defense first, it was the best basketball of the season that they played. Games were a race to 100. Games were fun to watch. I don't know about all you, but I had a great job, regardless, or a great time, regardless of the fact the Kings were in the 2-minute report 3 times in the last 6 games. Regardless of that, it was fun basketball to watch again. It was a grind. It was diving on the court. It was winning the transition battle. The transition game was the secret sauce for the Kings down the stretch. So I think where I will be very surprised, and that's the $1 million question, where does De'Aaron Fox fit in to all that? I know he was a part of it. Where does he fit into that? He played off the ball a ton last year. which is completely different than what he's done most of his career. But can he warp more into a team first oriented basketball game offensively? Because De'Aaron's more of an ISO guy. For this Kings team to have success offensively, one, it's got to start on the defensive side of the ball. And two, the ball has to move. The ball cannot stop. The ball has to move. That is when the Kings are absolutely at their best. Hey, we have not even done a Ride yet today, so we better get one of those in. So if you are new to the Ridos, here's what they are. They are basically things that I have seen over the last week or two that just made me go, don't. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? You know, some of the past ones that we've had, like Goodwill person that doesn't pack their car before they get to Goodwill. Once they get to Goodwill, then so when they start loading stuff, it's like, come on, do better. The line's already long, things like that. So I've loaded the wheel up with about 4 or 5 things that I have seen over the past couple weeks. We're going to go to the wheel and see which one comes up. Here we go. Oh, no. The toothpick flicker. Does anybody know a toothpick flicker? Look, using a toothpick is already kind of a personal thing, right? Arguably, using a toothpick should probably be done in the bathroom or on your own time, right? But if you have to these days, if you have to pick your teeth or you got something stuck in them and you're doing it in public, there's decent options, right? They've got the floss sticks now. And I've tried everything because for those that don't know, I had both of my hips replaced last year. Both of my hips replaced, which is crazy for a 40-year-old. But because of that, because of the implants and the stuff they use, you can't see a dentist for a year. Apparently, there is a small risk of infection that can affect the prosthetics, yada, yada, yada. Not getting into it, but I have tried everything. I can't wait for that year to expire because I need to see the dentist. But toothpick things have changed. They're floss sticks, they're whatever, right? But there is nothing worse than somebody at a restaurant that has a gaping open mouth. It's not like the toothpick is a pole vaulting pole. It's a tiny little stick. You don't have to open your mouth up super wide like that clown game that you shoot water into and the balloon fills and it pops and you win a crappy toy. No, but worse than that is people that flick the food off of their teeth in public. I mean, what? Gleeking didn't want any of that? You've got to flick your food? That is disgusting. Go pick your teeth in the privacy of a bathroom or wipe it in a napkin. And by the way, too, you don't need to look at what is on the damn pick. At least you shouldn't have to look at what's on the pick because you know what you have already put in your mouth. Is it really necessary to be studying that thing? Like it's an expensive painting or something you want to keep for later. It's disgusting. It's gross. Restaurants should ban anything but just a basic wooden toothpick because most times a basic wooden toothpick does not allow for the gross circumstances that I just laid out. I was at a restaurant. I saw it. I couldn't believe it. It drove me nuts. All right, we're going to go to the Rido wheel one more time. Let's see. Oh, we got to take one of these off. We got to take the toothpicker off because we don't want to have to go through that again. That was hard enough. You are out of here, my friend. Gone. Here we go. What is it going to be? Parking lot chess. Yes. So trust me, just like most of you, I want the best parking spot that I could possibly get, right? Like I understand that, but what's the other side of that, right? Do I want to wait a really long time for a parking spot? No. I was at Costco the other day, and I know Costco's parking lots and corn dog, don't come at me for getting on Costco because it's not Costco's problem. It's the consumer, it's the shopper's problem. But do you ever get to a Costco like right when they open, the entire parking lot is pretty much wide open, yet there is always that one person that is waiting for the spot that's closest to the store, even though it's backing up the entire aisle of people trying to park? I mean, is it really that important to you to be a couple spaces closer to wait 5 minutes and make the rest of us wait another 7 minutes? And then that is not a fun time to wait either, by the way, because you know half the time the people backing out do not even look behind them. You're going to have to lay on your horn once in a while. You're worried that you're going to get hit. Is somebody going to try to hit a long putt with the shopping cart and roll it in from 50 feet away back into the bin that holds the carts? It's just uncomfortable, but I don't get why people sit there and wait when there are open spots that are just a couple of spots away. It makes no sense to me. And for a bonus one, I just got to tell you, it's up here. I'm not going to spin the wheel again, but I had something very, very annoying happen, and I'm going to get in trouble for this one. I know I'm going to get in trouble for this if it makes it back to my wife. Have you ever had somebody leave an open, I don't know, 12-pack of drinks or an open case of water in your trunk? Have you ever tried driving when something like that is back there and you had no idea it was back there? It sounds like a match of tennis every time you turn. Toot, toot, toot. You got to give somebody a heads up. If you left an open case of water, an open case of anything in the trunk, there is nothing more annoying than being on the freeway or on a long drive and you can't pull over to fix it. Oh, it is the worst. Do not, new rule. If you open a 12-pack of anything, and yes, I'm talking to you, grocery store person that starts eating stuff before you buy it. Yes, if you crack open your 12-pack of Coke and you have one in the store, you better make sure that 12-pack of Coke comes in the house with you. Don't leave it in the car or in the trunk, especially if somebody else drives your car. That is so damn annoying. Those are my ride-dos for the week. It has been a really, really, really fun show. A deep show. I think we've learned a lot today. I think that, at least for me, I will say I'm looking a little bit differently at this trade situation and this race to improve the roster. I think maybe before a move like this even matters, or you can get the most out of a move like this, the Kings may have some bigger decisions to make first. There might be some bigger fish to fry before you start mortgaging the future, even if it's for Kyle Kuzma, even if it's for Brandon Ingram. We will see. One thing, Monty and his team, very diligent, very diligent. Now, I get the frustration about the lack of moves. I get that it's not always great being reactive rather than proactive, but we've got to trust the process. And I've been saying it for a couple days now, and I'm glad BJ reinforced it. I think this team, with no other moves, is still a little bit better off than we think because of how many self-inflicted wounds there were last season. So time will tell. Free agency continues in the NBA. If there's any updates on your Kings, make sure that you are paying attention to our Twitter accounts. You can find Grant at Grant Napier Show. Also, there is a QR code that will take you directly to my X account. I still call it Twitter sometimes. I think most people do that. But that is where you can also find the links for the King's Court. Most days you get a King's Court shoot around in the mornings, set you up for the day, and then our live show Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Tomorrow, scheduled to be, as always, a Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. I'll double check with him. It is a holiday week. That may affect the schedule. But as of right now, Jerry Reynolds will be here spending his Tuesday with us at 2 p.m. on the King's Court. And don't forget, please give us a thumbs up if you are watching on YouTube. I know the majority of the viewers come from X, but please subscribe if you haven't already. Grant's going to be back in just a little over an hour doing his Open Forum Friday or Open Forum Monday show. I should say that'll be a lot of fun. Make sure you come support him. Get his take on free agency. Get his take on where the Kings sit. Maybe he has heard things that I have not. I will keep my ear to the pavement. Again, we still got some big things coming up soon in the King's Court. Really looking forward to those. That includes, we've got some sports cards, collectibles trading. Got an expert coming on with us, an expert that I think you're going to recognize too. I'm not going to drop his name yet. I'm going to build that up a little bit more. But then also soon, Gabriel Harris, the acting GM of the Stockton Kings, will be joining the King's Court as well. And we're efforting a few other guests. So we've got a lot going. Thank you so much. 564 of you have checked in at some point today. I hope that you have a great rest of the day. By the way, if you're going to be at the Rivercats game tonight, come stop by, say hi. We're going to be there. We're having a boys' night at the game. That being said, I will definitely have my phone on me and will be staying in tune with what is next for your Sacramento Kings. A lot of things to think about. Great job today by everybody in the chat, everybody who called, Jay, BJ, Corn Dog. I appreciate all of you. Yes, even you, Haunted Horse. Reluctantly, I appreciate you, even though sometimes you are
It's a complete crap.
Yeah, a complete crap. Hit it, Tenora.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Go Kings, light the damn beam. Stay away from Levine. Court is dismissed until tomorrow.